Sheffield Wednesday are one of the podcasts that I've been most looking forward to or just been curious about in this series of summer deep dives that I'm doing because the name Sheffield Wednesday for me carries a certain prestige, and yet I find it over the last few years very difficult to trust them as a structural entity because of a lot of the damage that's been done under Dejphon Chansiri's ownership, and even from the time in League One where things did settle down a little bit, and Chansiri gave Darren Moore the keys to try and rebuild things and gave him a bit more autonomy, and that seemed to work better. Things flared up immediately the following summer. So anytime I feel a little bit of trust or faith in Sheffield Wednesday from an outsider's perspective, that always seems to go the wrong way. And yet, while I find it difficult to trust Sheffield Wednesday as a structural entity, I find it very easy to trust Danny Röhl as a head coach because the work that he's done to transform the Owls after taking over, after inheriting, I think, the worst start in Championship history under Xisco Munoz, he's transformed them culturally. He's put together a system that suits the players that he's got. And he's galvanised the whole football club in just an absolutely remarkable job from a point where relegation looked a near certainty. So the big question for me ahead of 24-25 is, are Sheffield Wednesday going to have their season defined by Chansiri and his mismanagement of the club, or is it going to be defined by the brilliance of Danny Röhl and what he can build with a full pre-season, bearing in mind he delivered top 10 form with Wednesday in the circumstances that he inherited, with a full pre-season and a summer to recruit his players? What can he achieve? A really fascinating case study, I guess, from the outside, and I can't wait to get into it in this summer deep dive. Yes, welcome along to the latest summer deep dive here on EFL Debate, one of 72. We're doing club by club across the EFL between mid-June and mid-July. The full set for League Two and nearly League One uploaded already to YouTube and to Spotify, so go check those out and subscribe. For now, I'm delighted to be joined by James Mappin from the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. James, good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate your time. Is Sheffield Wednesday's 24-25 season going to be defined by Dejphon Chansiri or by Danny Röhl?
Well, I hope it's the latter, because I hope that Chansiri keeps out of it and just does what a chairman should do, is just sign the checks and let Danny Röhl get on with it. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Initially, the signs are looking pretty good. It does sound like, I didn't think it would happen, but it does sound like Chansiri is changing a little bit in terms of, well, he's certainly not doing what he was doing previously. I'm sure everyone has seen the press conference from a little over a year ago when Xisco Munoz was announced as a manager. Thankfully, we haven't had anything like that in this summer so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that in order for Danny Röhl almost became a bit of a such a powerful figure at Sheffield Wednesday, and that Dejphon Chansiri, in order to get him to sign a new 3-year contract, has maybe had to make certain compromises and actually give him the space to get on with things?
Yeah, look, I think there would have been a massive uproar if something had gone wrong and Danny Röhl wasn't manager of Sheffield Wednesday for this upcoming season. And yeah, I think everyone could see, not only us as Sheffield Wednesday fans, but everyone on the outside as well, that we've got something special with Danny Röhl and what he's doing. We were in dire straits when he came in last season, and he's given us some sort of identity now that we didn't have, and we haven't had for a while, to be honest. Even under Darren Moore, I don't think we could definitively say what it was that we were trying to do. And the football has been, implementing fantastic. All right, granted, it wasn't really working at times last season. Even though we did so well and managed to stay up, there was some big, heavy defeats in there. But as a fan base, we just believe in him, and we just we enjoy what he's doing, and we get it, and I think he gets us as well, which is a massive thing. I've never seen a fan base buy into a manager so quickly, so soon. And like I said, it wasn't all plain sailing from when he came in. There was still, we beat Rotherham, I think, on his third game, but then there was still some other defeats. It wasn't, we didn't immediately hit that good form, but like I said, the way that he engages with the fans and everything else, it's just great to see, really, and long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is going to be the recruitment process, or has been the recruitment process at Sheffield Wednesday, James? Do you think it has been Danny Röhl taking charge of things? Do you think you've got people helping him on that score? Or
yeah, well, I think there's definitely people helping him. I'd like to think it is all Danny Röhl's doing in terms of what he wants. Delving into the second tier of the Polish league, I don't know how far his net reaches, but that's certainly, I wouldn't really be expecting to make those sorts of signings. But I think, like I said, he has been doing a lot of the stuff himself. But when you look at it, I think his philosophy is just get the work done early. We've made 8 signings already, 7 permanent and 1 on loan. And some clubs haven't even made 1 yet, other than Rotherham, who have obviously made about 15 already so far.
Yeah.
They've got about 4 squads with the amount of signings that they've been making. But there was a worry that we were going to be getting to the start of this upcoming season, and we perhaps might not have the players that we need. Look, we've not seen these players play other than 1 pre-season friendly against Alfreton, so I'm not going to count chickens before they've hatched. But we've got the business done early, and that means that in these upcoming weeks before the start of the season and until the season, the transfer window ends, at least we can. Well, it certainly doesn't look like we're going to be rushing to make the signings, and we're starting to assemble a decent squad. Young as well, which is a massive plus. We've let some people go that are north of 30. All right, I know we've brought in a 36-year-old goalkeeper, but he's definitely going to be second choice. Olaf Kabaki, 22-year-old winger from Poland. Charlie McNeil, who was announced the other day from just being released by Manchester United, he's only 20. Beadle, who we had at the back end of last season, he's only 19 as well. So yeah, it's something again that we've not really used to doing in terms of signing the younger players that have got a bit of hopefully a bit of a resale value, because again, that's something that we haven't done since Chansiri's come in. It's just been all his money and all our money in terms of tickets that's been kind of funding the whole venture, which that's something that hopefully needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have a look at the. I'd be curious to ask you actually about how Danny Röhl has been able to transform things, James, because he took over from such a low point. I'm just curious how he's been able to get Wednesday playing, really.
Do you know what? I think he just gave the players that belief. We had no confidence whatsoever. I don't think the players really knew what Xisco was trying to get them to do. If you remember, obviously, we've gone from promotion in League One in emphatic circumstances to then Darren Moore's no longer the manager. Someone else comes in with totally new ideas and tried to reinvent the wheel in some regards, and I don't think it really needed to. I felt like, although we didn't have the best squad, I felt like we could probably be comfortable mid-table, under Darren Moore. Obviously, that all went out of the window, and all that momentum that we had just evaporated very, very quickly. So Danny Röhl came in and just kind of, I think personally, it just gave us that confidence, or gave the players the confidence to be able to do what they know they can do. Because, like I said, I don't think the squad was terrible. We did, Xisco just wasn't getting anything out of the players whatsoever. Didn't really have any sort of idea. Barry Bannon's come out and said that Danny Röhl's one of the best managers that he's ever worked with, which,
right.
I mean, some accolade. Barry Bannon's been around for a while, and he's seen a lot of Sheffield Wednesday managers as well in his time that he's been at the club. So for him to come out and say that, he's obviously great, and that he's still learning new things. And I think as well, he's very much a modern type of manager, which like it or hate it, football's going down the data route, all the analysis and everything else. Everything's analysed within an inch of its life now, and Danny Röhl's kind of at the forefront of that. I feel that is very much how he manages the football clubs, picks his team, and picks the formation and everything else. So yeah, he's kind of revolutionised us really, and like I said, it helps when the fans get on board, and the football was just more front foot, a lot more pressing. I think obviously it helps as well when you're so bad at the start of the season, teams are going to come up against you and feel like it is going to be an easy hit, and then of course it's not that, it's not like that at all, because we have changed, so teams could come up against us and be a little bit naive, which obviously certainly does help, because we did miss a hell of a lot of chances as well. We still, even though we did so well, we still didn't score enough goals, in my opinion. So, but he's had to work with what he's got. Brought some good additions in January, which definitely helped. Ike Ugbo, Jan Poveda being two of them, and of course Beadle in goal, 8 clean sheets. That certainly helps things along, which is always good. But no, I think that I've mentioned it before. I think the main thing was just that confidence and belief, and that comes from the training ground, and that comes from him being, telling them that they are capable of doing what they're doing. And I think that's where the numbers come into it as well. When you're looking at the likes of XG and chances created and everything else, all right, we might have lost the game 2-1, but you can see, but from the data, if you carry on doing what you're doing as I'm telling you to do, he knows that over a course of X amount of games, that will be enough to to stay in the league. And lo and behold, last game of the season, we've done enough, and we're still in the Championship.
Yeah, I think being process driven is very important, because there are going to be moments where results don't quite go your way, but you've got to stick to the good things, as well as looking at what needs to be improved. So let's have a look at the squad then, James. The big news, I guess, is that you've got James Beadle back on loan from Brighton. You must be over the moon with that after, like you say, 8 clean sheets after joining in January.
Yeah, I think it was kind of, I won't say inevitable, because obviously things always do change, but we were, as fans, we were crying out for him to sign for another season. Obviously he was at Oxford for the first part of last season, then he came to us in January, having done quite well there. Came to us as a relegation candidate club, I guess. And I suppose the next progress for Beadle is to go to a mid or a top end Championship club, and I hope that we showed at the back end of last season with what we did in the form that we were in, that we probably are that club. Sal Bibbo is the goalkeeping coach. He was at Brighton before, so obviously he has the links there. I'm sure that that makes it the job a lot easier when you're deciding where to send your goalkeeper to, when you've already got that link with the coaching side of things. So yeah, it just makes perfect sense. I think I think James Beadle could go far. I don't know how far he could go, what the dizzy heights will be, but certainly we'll be seeing him in the Premier League, sorry, at some point.
It's not the 90s anymore, James.
No, it's not. Yeah, well, it was when we were last in the Premier League, so we've never been able to call it that. But no, he'll be in the Premier League at some point during his career. Will it be with Sheffield Wednesday? I've no idea. You never know. But from what we saw last season, certainly, like I said, since game in January, it is great. Look, he made a few mistakes. Leicester was one of them. I think Norwich as well. Namely passing out from the back and putting us under a bit of trouble. But I think on the whole, when you look, he certainly saved us more goals than what he did concede in terms of the chances. Certainly kept us in some games. I mentioned the Norwich game. We could have actually been 4 or 5-0 down at that point. It wasn't. It was only 2, and we ended up getting a 2-2 draw in the end. And kind of you look back at those sorts of results and you think actually that could have been a turning point in the season. So yeah, on the whole, delighted that he's signed again. He knows the team as well, which you need that continuity when you've got such a big turnover in terms of players, which we have had in this summer. You do need some players that are still there. Thankfully, that the back line seems to be fairly solid in terms. We have kept quite a few of our defenders. So yeah, keeping another goalkeeper certainly helps.
Certainly does. You've brought in Ben Hamer. The big sort of plus of that is I think he's going to be a solid backup, and I'm wondering if it's going to allow someone like Pierce Giles to go out on loan.
Yeah, definitely. Some people say they want competition in the goalkeeping department, competition for places all over the park, really. And I think whilst that's true, as a goalkeeper, I'd probably say you don't really want that. You don't really want to be stood between the sticks thinking if I make a mistake here, I'm going to be out and someone's going to come in. Especially when there's only just one other, more often than not, there's just one other goalkeeper. I think it's nice to know that you are going to be the number one choice, barring an absolute disaster or injury, really. So the fact that he's 36 years old, I don't think he's going to be, knocking on the door saying, I need to start every game. I think he's probably coming knowing that he's going to be a number 2 goalkeeper. I know he played quite a bit at Watford, last season, the season before, due to their injury issues. But hopefully he's not playing much for us this season, which means that one, James Beadle's doing all right, and two, James Beadle's staying fit as well. But no, you're right. It's a good. He's got lots of championship experience. It's a good signing, and like I said, hopefully we don't see him too much this season.
Formation, James. I've written the squad down as a 4-2-3-1 because I think that's what you played at Alfreton. But I'm wondering, do you think that Danny Röhl's going to mix it up like he did last season?
Yeah, I do think he's going to mix it up. We signed loads of wingers or players that can play out wide, and at Alfreton it looked like a very distinct plan to get the ball wide as quickly as we possibly can, which, like I said, signing so many wide players, it would make perfect sense that we're going to be doing that. So yeah, I think a 4-2-3-1 how we set up the other day probably does seem right. We have played 3-5-2 for, and that's kind of how we finished the season last season when we went on a decent run. I think Danny Röhl, he likes to have options. I think there's a saying that you play your game and let the other team worry about you rather than the other way around, which is true to a certain extent. But I suppose if the opposition's got a glaring weakness, then you need to try and exploit that. And I think that's what Danny Röhl tries to do. The fact that I've mentioned before, uses data consistently throughout his time as a manager. He'll see how we can exploit the opposition, and yeah, he's not afraid to change it. He's not afraid to change it in game either, as well. So I think we'll 4-2-3-1 is probably how we'll want to start, but it wouldn't surprise me if we tried a few other formations throughout the season. And the players that we've signed do tend to, if you look in the positions that they've played throughout their career, it's not just one position. They have played in very, wide left, wide right, through the middle, left back, left wing back, left side of midfield. They've played in a variety of different positions, which allows that flexibility, especially throughout the course of the game, to actually change it up.
Yeah, I suppose two of those signings are Svante and Jelson and Olaf Kabaki. So again, I mean, slightly obscure signings, but it's exciting that the club is looking in the foreign markets.
Yeah, I don't know much about both of them whatsoever. I'll be perfectly honest. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Hansa Rostock is where Svante Ingelsson came from. I think they got relegated. Actually, they're now in the third tier of German football. And I'm not going to pronounce the team that Olaf Kabaki's come from in Poland. I think they actually got promoted to the top tier last season as well. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the net's reaching far and wide, and I think sometimes you have to do that to find these hidden gems, as so to speak. Olaf Kabaki looked decent on Saturday against Alfreton. He got an assist. Only played the second half. We had two different 11s that came out, but the initial signs are good. Like I said, I'm not going to get too carried away with myself because it is only Alfreton, but then again, you could quite easily make yourself look poor against them as well. So yeah, it is encouraging and exciting. I think we're going to probably see some more players from overseas coming in. It makes perfect sense to use Danny Röhl's knowledge of, especially the Bundesliga, and I'm sure he's got lots of contacts as well, from the various German clubs that he's been working at. Obviously, German national side as well. Which, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a few more of those in the next coming
Hips
weeks.
the signings.
Yeah, exactly. The signs that nobody's heard about. That's what you sometimes want, rather than these same old players that just get.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm often more excited about a signing when you've got to research who they are than this sort of 30-year-old who's been in the Championship for 5 years. So that's kind of, I'm a bit hipster like that. But on that theme, I actually tweeted somebody called Lucas who supports Arka Gdynia, who I think are the Polish club that second tier club that won promotion to the top flight last season. So I asked him about Olaf Kabaki on Twitter, and this is the translation. I don't know how the translation is going to come across, but we'll give it a go. When it comes to playing for Arca, Lucas says, I think he was a very strong link on the pitch, a dynamic player who can finish actions and is not afraid to enter a 1v1's game. I think he can physically lose out to well-built defenders. As for the transfer, if he gets enough minutes, he can help a lot. So, that sounds reasonably positive, with the caveat that he has just played in the Polish second tier, so that Championship's going to be a bit of a step up. But I'm excited that you've got. What excites me, James, is you've got some really good ball carriers in this squad. Olaf Kabaki hopefully can be one of them. I think Svante Jelson's going to be quite a good transitions player as well, by some of the things that I've seen. And then you've also got Masaba and Gassama as well.
Yeah, definitely. Players, you want players that are not afraid to run at the defence, and if you can turn the defender and get them facing their own goal, then you're onto a bit of a winner. As a fan, you always want exciting players. You want players that get you on the edge of your seat, and I feel like Masaba and Gassama were definitely that last season. All right, they both blew a little bit hot and cold, and I'd like to think that this season they can probably build on what they had. Masaba finishes the leading goal scorer last year. I think it's 7 goals he got in the league, which all right, not the dizzy heights, but it's certainly a base to kind of build off. We have brought in other wingers as well, so that as much as I mentioned, I don't want competition, between the sticks. In the other positions, it's fair game. Like you want to be able to, push each other. You want, players to think, I need to perform, or else I might not be playing next week. But not only that as well, I think last season off the bench, it was very weak. We made changes because of tired legs, but it didn't really affect the game in a positive light. I'm sure people listening probably think, oh, there was this game, there was that game. Yeah, there's probably going to be certain moments, but as a fan, I wasn't sat there thinking, oh, I can't wait for this player to come off the bench. It was almost like, it's just going to be same old. Whereas now, we have got players that unfortunately are going to miss out. There's only certain places in the squad, in the first team 11, but there's going to be opportunities, 60, 70 minutes in the game, especially if we're chasing it. You're going to bring someone on, and the defender's going to be not liking it. Let's put it that way. When they're faced with another quick winger that's attacking him and can, I don't know if this is the case, but you might be able to say to one of the wingers, well, you're only going to get 60 minutes this week. Just empty the tank up until 60 minutes, and you're going to be coming off. And then the next player can come on, and they've only got half an hour to last. And again, it can be all out attack. And it's looking really, really promising and really, really exciting. And like I said, we seem to have some sort of identity now moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing as well, though, is you've got those counter-attacking outlets: Jamal Lowe, Anthony Masaba, Gassama, JG Gassama, Olaf Kabaki. Hopefully, Jelson can be quite good on the turn. I think I saw a few clips of him where he received the ball in midfield and then turned and then was sort of facing the opposing half, which again looks a really exciting thing. But you've also got players like Barry Bannon, who we know can pull the strings from a technical point of view and might become useful in those against those low blocks as well.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Bannon goes without saying. I think we're quite lucky to have him, really. I think we do take him for granted. Quite a lot of the fan base, me included. I'll put myself in that. He's, the things that Barry Bannon can do on the ball is just fantastic, and his main attribute is other than his passing, of course, it's just his availability. Very rarely is Barry Bannon injured or not available through whatever reason. I think he's missed a handful of games during the time that he's been here, and he signed back in 2015. So we're approaching nearly 10 years at the football club, and he's pretty much guaranteed to be available every single week and played every single week as well. Yeah, he can certainly pull the strings. It's great that we have got some of these other attacking players that can perhaps take the burden off him a little bit. All right, not nobody in the same sort of mould as what a Barry Bannon is, but we've got the outlets that he can find, and it's not just going to be all down to Barry Bannon. But yeah, he's certainly a focal figure, and clearly we've never not found anyone that can be better than him or replace him yet. And he's 34 years old. He'll be 35 during this season, and you wouldn't think it, other than his hairline, I guess. But other than that, the amount of running that he does and the amount of games that he plays week in, week out, he's still probably got another couple of years to go, to be fair.
Yeah, incredible that he can keep up those sorts of that, because I mean we know he's a great technician, but to keep up those physical levels, I think is absolute testament to his professionalism and dedication. Why do you think you take him for granted, by the way? Is it just because he's been that good for over a number of years, you just assume he's going to be great?
Yeah, he's exactly that. His levels are so high that you expect it every single week. And the one time that he's not quite hitting those marks, you feel like, oh, we need to get him off. Maybe we need to bet someone else in. But then, it never happens. But because there probably isn't anyone that's any better, and because it's almost like the grass isn't always greener, if you know what I mean. And he has been there that long. There's part of you that thinks, is there anyone? Could we play with someone else? Is there someone else that could perhaps take us to the next level? But then again, he comes out with a fantastic pass that nobody else has seen. I mean, the pass for the Liam Palmer goal against Sunderland on the last day of the season. That's all Barry Bannon. That's his vision that's done that. And it's like I said, sometimes his levels can drop, but his 7 out of 10 is someone else's 9 or 10 out of 10 is what I'm trying to get at. His performances are that good, and he's consistent as well, to be fair.
Certainly is. So where was I? Central midfield is looking a bit light. You've brought in Svante and Jelson, who I think he's a bit of an 8. I'm not 100% on him, but I mean, I'm not so knowledgeable on him, but I think that's how he's been described. You've got Bannon there as well, but the next sort of midfielder is Rio Shipston. I don't know what your take was on his showing at Alfreton in pre-season, or how he's coming on.
Yeah, look, I think Danny Röhl gave Bailey Cadamartri a go out of the academy last season, so he's certainly not afraid to do that. I don't know whether Rio Shipston was there just to make the numbers up, or whether he's actually going to be a figure this season. You're right in what you said. We are very, very thin in that central midfielder role. We'd let a lot of central midfielders go, and we haven't really replaced them yet. It's like you said, Barry Bannon and Ingelsson is the only two. Yeah, just on Ingelsson as well, he plays in a multitude of different positions, and kind of he's not really got one. When you look at what he's done in his career, centre mid probably does stand out a little bit, but he's played everywhere. So I think you're probably right in that he's probably going to be a bit of an 8, a bit of a Will Volks replacement, I guess. If like a bit of a box to box midfielder. But yeah, Rio Shipston, I hope it can work out for him. Like I said, Danny Röhl isn't afraid to give the youngsters a go. Didn't really see much of him on Saturday, but he played the first half, and he kind of got in Barry Bannon's way a little bit. Bannon was doing a lot of barking at him that he like he normally does. That's how he speaks to people when he's on the pitch. So it wasn't really working. And like I said, he wasn't on the ball a great deal. Like I said, I hope it does work out for him, but I wouldn't be too surprised if if he's perhaps not drops back into the under 23s for much of the season.
So it sounds then like you're going to need another couple of midfielders coming in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been linked with Nathaniel Shalabar from West Bromwich Albion in the past, less than 24 hours. That broke during the England game last night, which I thought was totally wrong timing. Nobody's looking at Wednesday transfers when when England are playing Netherlands in a semi-final. But yeah, that's one that we're looking at. I mean, I'm not that excited by it, to be perfectly honest. He's 29-year-old, didn't feature a great deal for West Brom. I think I looked, and he's not even registered over 1,000 minutes in the last 3 seasons. Plays quite a lot. He comes off the bench a lot, but he's averaging 15, 20 minutes a game. So I don't know if that's the player that you want. But as a Wednesday fan at the moment, you see a lot on social media trusting Danny Röhl.
Yeah.
So whoever he's picked up as a potential target or a signing, it's probably for a reason. As I've mentioned numerous times already, if he'll be looking at the data, and if it matches, it's a bit like the Moneyball system. I'm sure he's got certain criteria when he looks at the data, and if certain players fall in them pots, then we've got to trust him. So, but no, it's certainly not one. Look, if we started the season without Shalabar in the middle of the park, I wouldn't be too concerned. Put it that way.
Right back then, James. Obviously, you've got Liam Palmer, who's been such a stalwart for Sheffield Wednesday over the last 13 years, something like that. So he's been an absolutely incredible servant. But you've got 2 players who could play at right back in Paul Valentin and Jan Valery. Now, the situation for Palmer changed a little bit if you play with a 3 at the back, because Valentin and Valery then become your options for right wing back, and Palmer could come in as an option for right centre back. But if you play with a back 4, I'm thinking he's going to find it difficult to get minutes.
Yeah, exactly that. I think Palmer's best position is right centre half, which is where at the back end of last season he played a lot there, and I thought we looked really good with him in that position. Like I mentioned, he scored that goal against Sunderland. I don't want to use the word underlapping centre backs, because those down the road were kind of famous for doing that. So I'll not mention it. But that's exactly what he were doing, and it really worked. Him and Paul Valentin had a good understanding that kind of got better and better as the season went on, really. But as we've mentioned, 4-2-3-1 looks like how he's going to play. He played in the defensive midfield role at the weekend in that pre-season friendly, and I don't think that's his best position. Really, I think he is best suited to that right centre half, and then if he's going to play right wing back, like you've just mentioned again, the fact that we've signed, Jan Valery, as well as as having Paul Valentin, I think again I'd probably prefer those 2 over Palmer. Again, he's always been available, very much like Barry Bannon throughout his time, very rarely injured, and he has been getting better and better. Some of his best seasons have been in the past couple of years, as opposed to the other seasons that he's had where he's perhaps found it a bit difficult. But yeah, that right back, I think it is going to be a straight fight between Valery and Paul Valentin, really, and both of them look fairly similar players. Like to get.
Well, they have the same surnames.
Well, yes,
Val or Val.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they both like to get forward. Both like to. The defending's been questioned, let's say, in recent seasons, but yeah, it's looking exciting. And managers sometimes say they want 2 players in every position, so they have got that competition there, and I think that's clear to see. And also on the other side as well at left back.
Yeah, talk to me about Paul Valentin's season last year, James, because he seemed to have a mixed start, but seemed to grow within the season.
Yeah, he came in because he was Xisco's mate. We made 3 signings at the start of the season that all had either played with or been managed by Xisco, Munoz, another one being Juan Delgado and Ashley Fletcher, which the less said about those, the better, to be honest. But no, Paul Valentin came in, and I think he admitted he struggled at the start of the season, struggled with the language, didn't speak any English. He's now, he's been working tirelessly at learning the English language, which, I find, remarkable, really. That they've got the time to do it, but I'd struggle speaking Spanish, even if I had some lessons, to be honest. So
struggle with English sometimes, James.
Well, yeah, I do. Yeah, to be fair, but yeah, he's you know what? He's one of them players that has got better as the season's gone on. I think some people, I'll be perfectly honest, have got a little bit carried away with him. I think he's still not quite got that end product, but he's certainly improved. Again, he's not afraid to take someone on. He has got some pace as well, pace to burn, and I said the end product's getting there, but it's something that needs to be worked on. And hopefully now the fact that we have got Jan Valery there to push him a little bit, we're going to see what he's all about. We're going to see if he's got it with him got about him to actually step up to the plate and improve. And to be honest, with Danny Röhl at the helm, he's got the best opportunity to do that.
Do you think Valentin's best position is right back or right wing back?
Probably right wing back, if I'm being perfectly honest. You don't, you've got that cover behind you to help you out a little bit. I've mentioned his defending's not great. I'll be honest, but then again, in the modern game, I don't think your right backs are more for attacking prowess rather than the actual defending in this. It's almost a case of if you score two, we'll score three in that regard. So he could improve, but I'd rather improve his attacking sense than his defending sense, if that means we're going to score more goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So centre backs, then you've got Bambo Diaby, you've got Akin Famoe, you've got Michael Ahikwe, and you've got Dom Iorfa. None of those I would necessarily describe as a top championship centre half. But 4 for 2 positions, if it is going to be a back four, would be a lot, I guess. So it looks like those are going to be your options, unless he chooses to go with a back three.
Deschamps Bernard is one that we offered him a contract at the back end of last season. He's yet to sign it, and he was by far the best centre back at Sheffield Wednesday last season. He's been at the Copa America with Jamaica. He's back now, but we've not heard anything on him. So I don't know if he signs. Everyone's crying out for him to sign because he was by far, like I said, the best centre back that we had last season. So if we're all waiting on that. To be honest, we haven't really been linked with many centre backs either. And like you said, they're not as much as I mentioned earlier. You want that kind of continuity. Bambo Diaby, he's got a lot of mistakes in him. He can be a bit of a car crash at times. Again, got better on as the season went on, which I think they all did. To be fair, hence why we finished in the form that we did. Michael Ahikwe. He's a bit of a header and kicker, which I think there's a time and a place for that, and I think you perhaps do need that sort of player in the squad. That there's certain games where you are going to be under the cosh. For example, when we come up against Leeds, no doubt about it, we're not going to have much of the ball, and we are going to struggle a little bit. A barrage of balls into the box, which he could probably be someone that you could lean on.
But then, James, to sort of counter that, if you go to Elland Road, you might need to give yourselves a bit of oxygen for 5 minutes in a game and actually be able to look after the ball. And then that becomes more difficult if you've got a centre half like Ihekwe. So you could look at it that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, he's not going to be a first choice. He's going to be he's certainly going to be a backup. A lot of people saying that we perhaps need to move him on, which again I would get that. You've mentioned there's 4 centre backs and there's only going to be two places to go at. I think he probably does need to move one on if possible. I mean, Dom Iorfa, we offered him a new contract, which is signed, so that's always a positive. He can blow hot and cold. He's very much a confidence player. If he has one bad game, he probably has 2 or 3 bad games. But then again, on the flip side, if he gets into a bit of form, he looks great. The song that we all sing, "Fastest Man in Yorkshire," is true. He's long range of legs that he's got. He can certainly get him out of a lot of trouble. Does get a bit of a nosebleed when he moves, when he gets forward, but players playing certain positions for a reason, and they can't do it all. You've just got to have that balance. Akin Famewo, he played a lot on the left hand side last season, so I'm glad that we have actually brought in another left back in Max Lowe, which is going to help things. That means he's not going to be playing left back this season, left footer, so likely to play on the left of a back three or a centre back pairing, which gives you that balance, which I know a lot of managers want. That's all they've been talking about in the Euros for in an England regard for the past however many weeks it's been. But yeah, it makes perfect sense to have that, like I said, have that balance there. So yeah, it's probably we're stacked in the wide areas. That through the middle we're lacking a little bit, but these players, the players that you mentioned, other than Deschamps Bernard, were good enough to finish what. I think 9th or whatever it was since Danny Röhl came in. So even though on paper they don't look great, Danny Röhl certainly got a tune out of them last season.
Certainly did, didn't he? So what's required then for Anthony Musaba and JD Gassama to find the consistency that maybe just eluded them a little bit last season, James? Is it a question of end product? Because I know that they're both absolutely lightning on transition in terms of they're such strong runners, aren't they?
Yeah, it's difficult really. I think they both had a decent run in the side. Musaba probably more than what Gassama got. I think they just need to continue what they were doing. I think we'll just see like a natural progression with them. They've come into the championship, off of playing in France and Belgium, where they've got to adjust to life in the English Football League, which some people do. Some players do struggle with. I think it's going to be very interesting that now Danny Röhl's got this full pre-season to work with players like that to see what they're like come the start of the season. He hasn't had a pre-season to work with them, and we know it's literally games every Tuesday, Saturday, every single week, isn't it, throughout the course of the season. So it's obviously been difficult, but already we've seen how they've started to come on. I think. It is that end product. It is that final pass or that final, like the decision making the right decision at the right time. Sometimes they perhaps hold on to the ball for a little bit too long, and then end up losing possession. So it's about not wanting to do it all, utilising the other players that we've got in the squad. Again, that could come down a little bit to the fact that certainly in the start of the season weren't playing very well, so some players feel like they have to do it all. But no, I'm excited to see what both of them can do. But then again, it's going to be difficult because there's a lot of competition for those places as well.
Certainly is. Well, I suppose Jamal Lowe provides competition both out wide and up top, where you've currently got Bailey Kedamatri, who got into the team when Röhl first came in. You've got Charlie McNeil, who just signed yesterday. Technically, you've still got Callum Patterson, Michael Smith, and Malik Wilkes. Now, I'm thinking a couple of those could be on their way, maybe, if you're able to offload them.
Yeah, definitely. I think we still do need a number 9. I think like a proven goal scorer. It's great that we've signed Charlie McNeil, unproven at this level. He's not. I don't know if he's played at championship level so far in his career. He's only 20 years old. By all accounts, at youth level, breaking records for Man City in terms of goals scored. I think he scored something like 600 goals for Man City youth team, which is absolutely phenomenal number. I'm sure he's had some 10s and 11s in there in his time at youth level. But yeah, it is one of those areas that I do think we do certainly need to strengthen. You mentioned Callum Patterson. He's very much just a utility player. If we're looking for Callum Patterson to lead the line, at the start of the season, I think we've probably failed in terms of the transfer market. Same with Michael Smith as well. Although he did great at League One, I'll be perfectly honest, I think League One is probably his level. Although saying that, he does offer something a little bit different. So certainly there's an option off the bench. With his height.
I could see him going to Derby to work with Paul Warne.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense, to be fair. But like I said, if we do keep him, he is a bit of an option. But again, I don't think he's going to be starting. He didn't start many games under Danny Röhl last season, so I don't think, given you've got a full transfer window to make changes, I don't really think that's really going to change somewhat. You mentioned Jamal Lowe. Yeah, I don't really know where he's going to play, to be honest. Whether he's going to be that focal point down the middle, or
Yeah, I
whether
don't
he's
think
going to
he's
play
really a
out wide.
focal point. I think he could play on, if you're going for a real counter-attacking system, I think Lowe, Masaba and Gassama with maybe Windass in behind. I think that would scare teams if they're playing a really high line. That would be my thinking. So I think for counter-attacking situations, I think he could be very dangerous, but I don't necessarily see him as the number 9, if you like. But then I don't really see that for you've got 6 players under contract who could play up top, and I don't think any of them I would necessarily hang my hat on.
Do you know what we were talking the other day? Actually, I don't even know if we're going to play without. We might play without a number 9 altogether. Very much like, yeah. Look, it wouldn't surprise me. Having the players that we've signed, and as I mentioned before, the fact that they've all played kind of left, right, through the middle, at various points in their career, they've obviously done it. It's not something new. The fact, again, like you mentioned, Josh Windass, he can do exactly the same.
Could Windass play as a false 9, do you think?
That's exactly what I'm going to say, Gabe. Like it could work, just given the profile of the players that we've actually signed. I know, obviously, we've got Cadamartre, but again, he's not an out and out striker, number 9 kind of thing. Leads the line well in terms of his closing down and pressing, which is really good, which I think gets drilled into players from an early age. And Charlie McNeil as well looks like he could. He scores goals, but he creates goals as well.
He's
So he's
very
not just
technical, Charlie McNeil. Yeah, so that could be quite an exciting thing. Yeah.
So yeah, it would, like I said, it would not surprise me if we actually started the season without a recognised number 9 and played a kind of a fluid system up top. You mentioned the pace. Keep the opposition guessing. It worked for Liverpool. I'm not saying we're Liverpool, but something like that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Right. Well, you're getting me excited now, James, because I do think that the idea of Masaba and Gassama coming into those goal-scoring areas, that with a central forward dropping in, I think that could be quite an exciting thing. I'm not quite sure how it would work, but no, so that's certainly a very fun idea, isn't it? What would be the biggest reason, James? Expectations. Sorry, before I ask that, expectations for the season. Is it about sort of establishing yourselves in that middle 8 bracket and sort of consolidating, or is there a bit of optimism that maybe you can do better than mid-table?
There's loads of optimism. It depends who you speak to. Like, we've not had obviously, the first season under Carlos when we got to the final and lost to Hull. That was a fantastic season. I think like it's different to that one though, because there's albeit we were a bit of a surprise outfit that season. We've signed loads of players. It just worked, and obviously we got into the playoffs, beat Brighton, and then fell short at the final hurdle. Obviously, then there was expectation the next season. Obviously, when we lost to Huddersfield, and we got found out a little bit. This season, it's totally different because we didn't. Other than survive the championship, obviously it was a fantastic ending, but we still finished down near the bottom, and it was we was in a relegation. Well, it was in the relegation zone for pretty much all season. It was only the final few games where we actually managed to clamber ourselves out of it. So we didn't achieve anything in that sort of regards. So it's like a bit of a unknown this season in terms of how well are we actually going to do. We finished off really, really strong, but can we translate that into a full season? There's some people that are thinking, it's a perfect opportunity and a chance to actually get into the playoffs, and who knows what happens after then. We've got every right to be excited. I think there's other than the ticket prices, it's just been positive news story after positive news story. We signed things off the pitch are getting fixed and put right. There's lots of changes at the training ground that were needed, but they are now being done, which which is great to see. We've signed an analyst as well who won the Europa Cup. I think it was Europa League or UEFA Cup. I think it was a couple of seasons ago. So he's certainly got some pedigree. He's not just he's an unknown in terms of his name, but certainly in that sort of space, he's got quite a lot of success. So there's a lot of positive things happening, and like I said, we've every right to feel like this is going to be a positive season. Danny Röhl gives us exactly that. I do feel, I don't know whether this is just the Wednesday fan in me though. I'm just having to temper my expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if not, it just ends in disappointment. And I think that, again, I think that's just being a Sheffield Wednesday fan more than anything else.
And this is the other thing. I also think that if you had new own, if there was a takeover this summer, say, and to all intents and purposes, the new owners seemed like the right people, I would have loads. I would have all the optimism in the world. But the optimism that I have for you right now is sort of tempered by the fact that Chansiri is still owner, and there's been times where I've put faith in Wednesday or felt like things have stabilised or quietened a little bit, and then things have just flared up, like after winning promotion, just completely flared up. It's like, no, you can't have too many nice things. So it's like, I do wonder if Chansiri is there going to be a bust up with Danny Röhl at some point, or is there going to be, is he going to go back on what he's told Danny Röhl to get him to sign the contract? Or, I don't quite trust him, which is why I'm a little bit tentative in my optimism for you, if you like.
Yeah, that is always a worry, and I must admit I've had the same thoughts. What has he told him? What has he agreed to in these contract negotiations that he might not be able to fulfil? And then, of course, you lose trust between the two people, and then it always ends up badly. In terms of like a finishing position, for me, 10th would be a success, I feel, based on where we were last season. I mean, it all depends on how the season goes. Look, I don't want to be down near the bottom and then just have a bit of a run at the end. If we can be consistently mid-table, I just want a boring season. We've had, if you look at the last few seasons that we've had, last season obviously we were in a relegation scrap throughout, and it was, finished off great, but it was horrible throughout the whole season. The season before, we were top of the league. The wheels fell off, but obviously the miracles happened, and we beat Barnsley in the playoff final. We lost in the playoffs the season before to Sunderland. We lost on the last day of the season to Derby and got relegated the season before that. Like, it's just been there's been something happening every season with Sheffield Wednesday. Some good, some bad. I just want a nice, calm season of, winning games, losing a few games, and just finishing mid-table. If the season can be over 4 or 5 weeks before the end, I'll be absolutely happy with that. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah. At the same time, I also feel like now you've got one of the best managers you've had in recent history, and I also think there's an opportunity to maximise that, because I do think that there is going to be interest in Danny Röhl, and so could now be an opportunity to really seize on that. But
that's kind of for the season after, though. Really,
yeah, we'll worry about that later. Yeah. Listen, James, it's been great to get your insight. Oh yeah, got a couple more questions. I'm getting my ordering mixed up there. Biggest reason for doubt, we've sort of covered a little bit with Chansiri. Is there anything you'd add to that?
Some of these players are unproven. As much as we said trusting Danny Röhl, we don't know what the likes of Olaf Kabaki is going to be like. Ingelsson, for example, we haven't seen much of him. Again, we haven't really got as much as I just spoke about, we might not play with a number 9. We've struggled for goals, like historically. We've had many seasons. Michael Smith got 20 goals, not last season, the season before when we got promoted. The last time we had that was 2012 and Neil Mellor. So historically we have struggled for a goal scorer. I know they're like gold dust. They're hard to come by, and you're never guaranteed to actually come across one. That is something that is a bit of a concern. Is that going to change this season in terms of the converting of the chances, or are we still going to suffer the same sort of problems? Defensively, as we've touched on, I think it hinges on whether Deshaun Bernard's going to sign, and I think we've got to make a decision fairly soon on that. Really, if he's stalling and not signing on the dotted line, we have to kind of shift our attentions elsewhere. Really, and again, there's a lot of turnover of players. Some signings aren't going to work out. Danny Röhl made 4 signings in January. One of them was the Danish guy, Christian Pedersen from Swansea. He was awful. So as much as we made 3 good signings, one of them were poor.
But you take a 75% hit rate, wouldn't you?
You will, yeah. But it does mean that of the 8 signings we've made so far, 2 of them aren't going to be good enough. So Again, that's always a worry when there is a big turnover. There's probably going to be another 4 or 5 signings, I guess, and certainly a lot of loans come the start of the season, or even after the season's begun, when we've kind of looked at what we've got. So yeah, that dreaded line of they need time to gel, which seems to come out every single season, which baffles me. The season start. We know when the season's going to start. Why aren't they ready for it? So that's another thing that does worry me a little bit.
I guess the point is, like, sometimes if you know your teammates and you've established a synergy with them in previous seasons, then that becomes easier for them. Whereas if they're new and you're still, or especially if you come in late in the summer, then sometimes you might take a bit more time. That can be sometimes how it works.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, to kind of counter that, we've had 8 signings, and it's it's the 11th of July. So so on that, we're doing it all. I suppose we're doing all we can to actually get them integrated in. I mean, they're at St George's Park this week on a training camp, so that's going to help. Them 8 signings that we've made. All right, one of them is known in Beadle, but the other 7. They're there, 24/7 with each other, and that's certainly going to help. Alleviate that fact of not being able to gel at the start of the season. So, yeah, as much as it's a concern, it's great that we've got, certainly a vast majority of the business done fairly early.
Certainly is. Give me a number then, James, between 1 and 10 to denote your level of optimism for the season ahead.
I'm gonna go. I want to say. I'm gonna say 8. I'm gonna say 8. I am gonna say 8. But then again, optimism for what? That's not 8 out of 10 for getting promoted. That's just 8 out of 10 as it's going to be a positive season, and I think we're going to be. I think we're going to be seen in the top half of the league for much of the season. I feel.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that comes to fruition. James, it's been great to get your insight. Thank you so much for your time. I implore everyone to go check out the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. Follow them on Twitter /X at WTID pod, and also you can subscribe to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify. If you've enjoyed this episode on YouTube, leave us a comment down below and let me know how you think the Owls are going to do in 24-25, or if you've listened on Spotify, please leave us a review. That would help us out a lot, and we'll see you again here on EFL Debate for another summer deep dive very soon.